If your August payment doesn't land in your account on the day you expect it, you could be left scrambling to cover rent, utilities, or a mortgage payment with no cushion and no warning. For hundreds of thousands of Canadian seniors living paycheck to paycheck on a fixed income, a single missed or delayed deposit isn't just inconvenient, it can mean overdraft fees, late payment penalties, or the stress of not knowing when the money you depend on is actually coming. That's exactly why today we're laying out in full detail everything you need to know about your August 2026 CPP and OAS payment, the confirmed date, how the system actually works behind the scenes, and the small mistakes that trip up even long-time recipients every single month. This isn't a topic you can afford to guess about. Service Canada handles millions of payments every month, and while the system is generally reliable, the responsibility for making sure your information is correct, your banking details are up to date, and your application status is in good standing still falls on you. So if you're receiving CPP, OAS, GIS, or you're getting close to the age where you'll start collecting these benefits, stick with this video all the way through, because we're going to cover details that a lot of seniors, even those who've been collecting for years, still get wrong. Before we go any further, if you find value in straightforward, no-nonsense updates for Canadian seniors and retirees, go ahead and subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. We publish updates on CPP, OAS, GIS, and other Service Canada programs regularly, and the last thing we want is for you to miss something that directly affects your monthly income. Now let's get into it. What you're going to learn today in this video, we're going to walk through 8 key areas. First, we'll give you a clear overview of how the August 2026 payment cycle works for CPP and OAS. Second, we'll cover the important facts you need to understand about how these two programs relate to each other and to GIS. Third, we'll talk about who is actually affected by this payment schedule, because it's a wider group than most people realize. Fourth, we'll look at the benefits and potential risks tied to how and when you receive your payment. Fifth, we'll go through the important dates and rules you need to have marked on your calendar. Sixth, we'll cover the most common mistakes seniors make that end up delaying or reducing their payments. Seventh, we'll give you practical, actionable steps you can take today to protect yourself. And finally, we'll wrap everything up with the key takeaways so you walk away from this video with complete clarity. There's a lot here, so let's start from the top. Let's start with the basics, because even long-time recipients sometimes lose track of exactly how the system operates. The Canada Pension Plan, or CPP, and Old Age Security, or OAS, are the two largest government income programs for Canadian seniors. CPP is a contributory program, which means the amount you receive is based on how much you paid into it during your working years and at what age you decided to start collecting. OAS, on the other hand, is a residency-based program, meaning your eligibility and amount are primarily determined by how long you've lived in Canada as an adult, not by your work history or contributions. Service Canada, which is the delivery arm of Employment and Social Development Canada, is responsible for issuing both of these payments. And according to the official payment calendar published on Canada.ca, the confirmed payment date for CPP in August 2026 is Thursday, August 27th, 2026. OAS follows the exact same schedule, which means OAS is also paid on Thursday, August 27th, 2020. If you receive the Guaranteed Income Supplement, or GIS, that payment is bundled together with your OAS deposit, arriving on that same day. Now here's something that trips a lot of people up. Even though CPP and OAS are paid on the same date, they are administered as two separate programs, which means they typically show up as two separate transactions in your bank account rather than one combined deposit. If you're someone who receives both, don't be alarmed if you see two line items on your statement instead of one lump sum. That's completely normal, and it reflects how these programs are structured behind the scenes, even though Service Canada coordinates the timing for your convenience. This overview is the foundation, but there's more nuance here that matters, especially if you're someone managing a tight monthly budget or helping an aging parent keep their finances organized. So let's move into the specific facts you need to understand. Here's where we get into the details that actually make a difference in how you plan your month. The first fact to understand is the pattern behind these payment dates. Service Canada generally issues CPP and OAS payments on the third to last business day of each month. That's not an arbitrary choice. It's a consistent administrative pattern that has held for years, which is part of why these payments are largely predictable, even before the official calendar for a given year is published. Looking at the confirmed 2026 schedule, payments are issued on January 28th, February 25th, March 27th, April 28th, May 27th, June 26th, July 29th, August 27th, September 25th, October 28th, November 26th, and December 22nd. Notice that every single one of those dates falls in the final week of its respective month, except for December, which is paid earlier, on December 22nd, specifically to get ahead of the holiday banking closures. The second important fact involves the difference between direct deposit and mailed checks. If you're set up for direct deposit, which the vast majority of recipients now are, your payment should appear in your account on the payment date itself, sometimes even in the early morning hours. If you're still receiving a physical check in the mail, you need to build in extra time. Canada Post Delivery can add several business days on top of the payment date, and depending on where you live, particularly in rural or remote areas, that delay can stretch even longer. Service Canada's own guidance asks recipients to wait 5 to 10 business days after the scheduled payment date before reporting a payment as missing. That's an important number to remember because contacting Service Canada too early before that window is passed usually just means you're told to wait. The payment may already be in transit. The third fact worth knowing is that OAS amounts are reviewed on a quarterly basis, tied to changes in the cost of living, while CPP amounts are adjusted once per year, typically effective with the January payment. This is a structural difference between the two programs, and it means your OAS amount has more frequent opportunities to shift throughout the year than your CPP amount does. For the specific dollar figures that apply to your situation, the safest and most accurate source is always your My Service Canada account or the official Canada.ca benefits pages, since individual amounts vary significantly based on your personal contribution history, your age when you started collecting, and your income level. There's another detail many seniors overlook, and we'll come back to it in more depth later in this video: the relationship between your reported income and how it affects programs like GIS and the OAS recovery tax. That single factor catches more people off guard than almost anything else in the system, so make sure you stay with us for that section. Let's talk about who this payment schedule actually touches, because it's a broader group than just seniors collecting a pension. First, there are current CPP retirement pension recipients, anyone who has started collecting their CPP retirement benefit, whether they began at age 60, at the standard age of 65, or delayed collection until as late as 70 to maximize their monthly amount. Second, there are OAS recipients, which includes most Canadians age 65 and older who meet the residency requirements regardless of their work history. Third, there are GIS recipients, lower income seniors who receive the guaranteed income supplement on top of their OAS payment. This group is particularly sensitive to payment timing because GIS is specifically designed to support seniors with limited additional income, meaning any delay or disruption can have an outsized impact on their monthly budget. Fourth, this schedule affects CPP disability beneficiaries, along with survivors' pension recipients and those receiving children's benefits under CPP, since all of these payment types follow the same monthly calendar as the CPP retirement pension. Fifth, and this is a group people often forget, family members and caregivers who help manage the finances of an aging parent or relative are directly affected by this schedule too. If you're the person who checks in on mom or dad's bank account, helps pay their bills, or manages their affairs under a power of attorney, knowing the exact payment date isn't just useful information, it's part of your responsibility in making sure their bills get paid on time and nothing slips through the cracks. And finally, this affects Canadians who are approaching retirement and are still deciding when to start their CPP and OAS benefits. Understanding how the payment calendar works now helps you plan realistically for what your first few months of retirement income will actually look like, rather than being surprised by the timing once you've already applied. Now let's talk about what this predictable payment schedule means for you in practical terms, both the advantages and the potential pitfalls. The clear benefit of Service Canada's consistent, calendar-based payment system is predictability. Once you understand the pattern, generally the third to last business day of the month, you can plan your bill payments, mortgage or rent due dates, and other financial obligations around it with real confidence. Many seniors deliberately schedule their pre-authorized bill payments for a day or two after their expected CPP and OAS deposit, specifically to avoid any risk of insufficient funds. There's also an opportunity here that doesn't get talked about enough because OAS is reviewed quarterly and CPP is adjusted annually. Staying informed about these review periods means you're never caught off guard by a change in your payment amount. Seniors who actively check their My Service Canada account around these review dates tend to catch discrepancies or errors far earlier than those who simply wait for the deposit to show up and assume it's correct. On the risk side, the most significant issue is what happens when your personal information falls out of date. If you've changed banks, moved to a new address, or your direct deposit information wasn't updated after a life change, your payment can be delayed, misdirected, or in the case of a mailed check, sent to an old address entirely. Another risk involves income reporting. For anyone receiving GIS or anyone whose income is close to the OAS recovery tax threshold, a change in income that isn't accounted for can lead to a recalculation that reduces future payments, sometimes without much advance warning if you're not the one tracking it. There's also the risk of relying purely on memory for these dates. It's easy to assume it's always around the end of the month and leave it at that. But when you have automatic withdrawals scheduled for bills, being off by even a day or two in your own mental calendar can create an unnecessary cash flow squeeze. This is exactly the kind of detail that seems small until it isn't, and it's part of why so many financial advisors recommend building a 1 or 2 day buffer into your budgeting around government payment dates rather than assuming the money will be there the instant you expect it. We're about halfway through this video, and there's still a lot of essential information ahead, including a section on mistakes that catch even experienced recipients off guard. If straightforward information like this is useful to you, take a moment right now to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so future updates on payment dates and benefit changes land directly in your feed. Let's get very specific about the dates and rules you need to keep in mind. As confirmed on the official Government of Canada benefits calendar, the August 2026 payment date for both CPP and OAS is Thursday, August 27th, 2020. If you receive GIS alongside your OAS, that payment arrives bundled into the same deposit on the same day. This applies whether you're collecting CPP retirement, CPP disability, CPP survivors benefits, or CPP children's benefits, since all of these payment types share the same monthly schedule as the standard CPP retirement pension. Looking at the full 2026 calendar for context, the remaining payment dates after August are September 25th, October 28th, November 26th, and December 22nd. Notice that December is the outlier, landing earlier in the month specifically to avoid the holiday banking closures, which means the gap between the December payment and the following January payment is longer than usual, something worth planning ahead for if you're budgeting across the holiday season. In terms of rules, here's what you need to know. If you're on direct deposit, expect your payment to appear on the payment date itself, often by early morning. If you're receiving a mailed check, build in several extra business days for postal delivery, and remember that Service Canada asks recipients to wait 5 to 10 business days past the scheduled date before reporting a payment as missing. Contacting them before that window has passed generally won't speed anything up, since the payment may simply still be in transit. Another rule worth remembering involves how often these programs are reviewed. OAS payment amounts are reviewed quarterly in relation to cost of living changes, while CPP amounts are typically adjusted once per year, with any change effective as of the January payment. If you want to confirm the exact amount you're entitled to for August 2026, based on your personal circumstances, the most reliable way to do that is through your My Service Canada account, where your specific benefit details, payment history, and any scheduled changes are listed directly. We're not going to guess at specific dollar figures in this video because your actual amount depends on your individual contribution history, the age you started collecting, your marital status, and your income, and giving you a generic number could genuinely mislead your personal budgeting. Always confirm your own figures directly with Service Canada. Now let's talk about where things go wrong, because these mistakes are far more common than most people expect, even among seniors who have been collecting benefits for years. The first mistake is outdated banking information. If you've switched banks, closed an old account, or opened a new one, and forgot to update your direct deposit details with Service Canada, your payment can bounce back or be delayed while the issue gets sorted out. This is one of the single most preventable causes of a missing payment, and yet it happens constantly. The second mistake is an outdated mailing address, particularly for anyone still receiving a physical check. If you've moved and didn't formally update your address with Service Canada, your check could be sent to your old residence, creating a delay that can take weeks to resolve, especially if the new occupant doesn't forward it. The third mistake is contacting Service Canada too early when a payment seems late. As we mentioned earlier, the official guidance is to wait 5 to 10 business days past the scheduled payment date before reporting an issue. Reaching out on day 1 or 2 of a delay usually just results in being told to wait, when that time could be better spent double-checking your direct deposit information instead. The fourth mistake, and this is a big one for anyone receiving GIS, is failing to file your income tax return on time. GIS eligibility and amount are recalculated annually based on your reported income, and that recalculation typically takes effect each July. If your tax return is filed late, your GIS payment can be interrupted or reduced simply because Service Canada doesn't have the updated income information it needs to process your renewal on schedule. This is one of the most overlooked administrative details in the entire system, and it catches lower income seniors, exactly the people who can least afford a disruption, more often than it should. The fifth mistake is not understanding how additional income interacts with the OAS recovery tax, sometimes referred to informally as the OAS clawback. If your net world income rises above the threshold set for the year, whether from investment income, a part-time job, or other sources, a portion of your OAS can be recovered through this tax. Seniors who aren't tracking this can be caught off guard by a smaller than expected OAS payment or a tax time surprise. If your income is near that threshold, it's worth speaking directly with Service Canada or a financial advisor about how to plan around it. The sixth and final mistake worth flagging is assuming that CPP and OAS will always arrive as a single combined deposit. As we covered earlier, they're separate programs and typically show up as two distinct transactions, even though they're paid on the same date. Seniors who don't realize this sometimes panic when they see only one deposit land and assume the other is missing, when in reality it may simply post a few hours later that same day, or appear as a second line item they didn't notice. So what should you actually do with all of this information? Let's walk through practical, actionable steps you can take starting today. First, log into your My Service Canada account and confirm that your direct deposit banking information is current and accurate. This single step prevents the majority of payment delays that seniors experience, and it takes only a few minutes to verify. Second, confirm that your mailing address on file is up to date, even if you're on direct deposit, since Service Canada may still need to reach you by mail for other correspondence, such as tax slips or eligibility reviews. Third, mark August 27th, 2026 on your calendar. And while you're at it, go ahead and note the remaining 2026 dates as well: September 25th, October 28th, November 26th, and December 22nd. Having these dates visible, whether on a paper calendar on your fridge or a reminder on your phone, removes the guesswork from your monthly budgeting. Fourth, if you receive GIS, make sure your income tax return is filed on time every year, even if you have little or no income to report. This keeps your GIS renewal on track for the annual July recalculation and helps you avoid any interruption in that payment. Fifth, if your income is close to the OAS recovery tax threshold, consider speaking with a financial advisor or contacting Service Canada directly to understand how changes in your income might affect your OAS amount going forward. Getting ahead of this is far easier than trying to untangle it after the fact. Sixth, build a small buffer into your budgeting. If you have pre-authorized bill payments or rent withdrawals, consider scheduling them a day or two after your expected CPP and OAS deposit rather than on the exact same day. This protects you from the rare instance where a payment posts slightly later than expected. Seventh, if you're helping a parent or family member manage their finances, share this information with them directly and consider setting a joint reminder for payment dates so both of you are on the same page about when to expect the deposit and when it would be reasonable to start asking questions if it hasn't arrived. And finally, if a payment genuinely hasn't arrived after the 5 to 10 business day window has passed, contact Service Canada directly, either by phone or through your My Service Canada account, to look into the specific issue. Don't rely on guesswork or assumptions. Service Canada representatives can see the actual status of your payment and tell you exactly what's happening. Let's bring this all together. The confirmed payment date for both CPP and OAS in August 2026 is Thursday, August 27, 2026, with GIS bundled into that same OAS deposit for anyone who receives it. CPP and OAS are separate programs and typically arrive as two distinct transactions, even though they share the same payment date. Direct deposit recipients should expect their payment on the date itself, while mailed checks require additional time, and Service Canada asks for 5 to 10 business days of patience before you report anything as missing. Keeping your banking and mailing information current is the single most effective thing you can do to avoid payment delays. Filing your taxes on time matters enormously if you receive GIS, since that program is recalculated annually each July based on your reported income. And if your income is near the OAS recovery tax threshold, staying informed about how that affects your payment can save you from an unwelcome surprise down the line. Above all, the most important habit you can build is simple. Know your dates, keep your information current, and check your My Service Canada account regularly rather than waiting until something goes wrong. These programs are designed to support you reliably, month after month, but a little bit of proactive attention on your part goes a long way toward making sure that reliability actually shows up in your bank account exactly when you expect it. Retirement income shouldn't be a source of stress or uncertainty, and understanding exactly how and when your CPP, OAS, and GIS payments arrive is one of the simplest ways to take that uncertainty off the table. We've covered the confirmed August 2026 payment date, how these programs work together, who's affected, the risks and opportunities involved, the rules you need to know, the mistakes to avoid, and the concrete steps you can take starting today to protect your income. If this video helped bring some clarity to your August payment planning, do us a favor and give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you're always among the first to know about upcoming payment dates, benefit changes, and important updates from Service Canada. We publish this kind of straightforward, no-nonsense information regularly, specifically for Canadian seniors and retirees who want clear answers without the runaround. Thank you for watching, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you in the next video.